Now, coats and car seats, Dan, they do not mix if you're tiny. So this time of year, getting the kids in and out of the car takes well more than an extra few minutes if she refuses to get in the car because, you know, she fights you.
Don't forget the teddy bear.
Oh, goodness.
Amanda Fay joins us live along with Hannah from Safe Kids Greater Toledo with more.
Yes, you have to have all their cuddlies, you know, they have to be comfortable when they're in the car. So as you mentioned, I'm here with Hannah now, and she's going to show us about the coat thing that you talked about, but we also want to start with what car seat is appropriate for which kid, because, you know, depending on their size, they're going to be in a different kind of car seat. So walk us through this.
Yes, and there's several different kinds of car seats. So oftentimes we start off our newborns with an infant carrier, but you can also start them off with a convertible car seat like I have today. It's really important that we maximize the height and the weight that we're allowed to use in each phase. What we often see our caregivers are either missing a step or they're moving into a step that's a little bit too soon. So we always want to follow what the car seat manufacturer allows us to do. So like this particular seat will allow the child to rear face up to 50 pounds or whenever their top of their head is 1 inch from the top of the headrest handle. So this could rear face for a very long time. And we want to make sure that we rear face for as long as possible because it is the safest position. And once they've maximized those height and the weight, we would go ahead and move them into forward facing, max out what forward facing allows, and then go into the booster seat. We definitely don't want to skip any phases because every time we move from one car seat to the next, we're missing some additional safety features.
Yeah, and you know, I think our kids were like, oh, they're not comfortable, and you know, but it really is important because when we talk about car accidents and crashes, God forbid, you know, they happen, and unfortunately, we see a lot of deaths with these types of things.
Unfortunately, we do, and car crashes are still the leading cause of unintentional injury and deaths for our kiddos. So often we'll hear parents say, oh, well, their legs are touching. A leg injury is much easier to fix than a head, neck, or spinal cord injury. And kiddos make themselves really comfortable. I'm sure, like,
they cross their legs,
exactly,
they do all the things,
they're
right?
still putting it like there, and I'm like, oof, I can't even imagine doing that. So they make themselves comfortable. So that's also another reason why to continue that phase. And honestly, more times than not, we hear, well, we just want to see them. We would rather that child be rear facing than for you to see your child because it's going to keep them safe. A car accident is called a car accident for a reason, but there's a lot of things we can do to prevent those serious injuries and deaths by having your child in appropriate car seat that's right for their age, height, and developmental level as well. If you have a child who's still moving around quite a bit in the vehicle, you don't want to put them in a booster seat just quite yet. You want to keep them in that harness for as long as possible.
They need to be, you know, and speaking of the harness, we need to make sure that when we put the harness on, we're putting it on the right way. You know, I think a lot of times you're like, oh, well, I don't want to, you know, pull too hard or too tight. How should it look on the child?
So we want everything to be snug like a hug. That is what's going to keep them safe in a car crash. So if this kiddo is rear facing, so these harness straps are going to be at or below their shoulders. If they were forward facing, it's at or above. So we like to do the pinch test. If we're able to pinch any material at their shoulders, we know it's too loose. So it's no longer the 1 or 2 finger rule. So I'm going to go ahead and go back here and pull a little bit tighter. And then if my fingers are able to just glide over that harness, you know it's nice and tight. And then this is going to go ahead, we want it to be at armpit level. So sometimes it just naturally falls at armpit level, and sometimes you have to raise it. We don't want it to be too high, we don't want it to be too low. So this is how they should be in the car seat.
Okay, armpit level, we'll remember that. Okay, so you have that coat there. This is the time of year where the kids are wearing the bulky, puffy coats. Next week, definitely going to be the case. Very cold outside. Now the thing with these puffy coats is they could be actually dangerous in a car seat.
Yeah, very dangerous. We see a lot of injuries from wearing those bulky sweatshirts or those coats in the car. So we don't want to have anything bulky on them, so nothing thicker than that fleece sweatshirt. So you can go ahead and wrap them around because a lot of the hassle is putting the coat on and off the kiddo. Just even for like a 20-second trip to the, you know, from your house to your car. So you can go ahead and put it over them like this, keep them cozy. Put them in the car seat, get them properly harnessed, and then if your child is old enough, you can go ahead and put that coat on them backwards like a blanket. If they're maybe too small, just go ahead and put that coat, you know, more as like a blanket, or just tuck it underneath of them. But this would be perfectly fine because it's not going underneath that harness, it's going over the harness.
Because if there is an impact, this is going to collapse. And then there's going to be that extra space that you were talking about. It wouldn't pass the pinch test.
Yes, all that fluff compresses. So think of like all those bulky materials that you put in a space saver bag and that vacuum.
Yes.
Vacuum's like a car crash.
That's what's going to happen. So you brought a booster seat with you today too. At what point, we can graduate, our kids to a booster seat?
Yes, we want to reach what the car seat allows for forward facing. So oftentimes it's going to be about that 54 inches, 65 pounds. Some car seats may allow for a lot longer with height. Or whenever their top of their ears go over the shell. And we want to go ahead into the booster. We don't want to go into the booster too soon. We've been hearing a lot more calls, and I've been seeing a lot more out in the field of like 1 and 2 year olds in boosters. So that tells me that they're skipping a really important step of rear facing. So going to that rear facing convertible and moving that into a forward facing convertible. So they're just kind of going straight into this booster mode. 1, it's not going to be safe for that kiddo. And 2, it's against the law too. So a lot of boosters that are made now will say the child has to be at least age 4. So we don't want any kiddo underneath that age. But also 4 or 5 year olds are sometimes too, they're not cognitively ready. They're moving around in the vehicle sometimes. And if they're moving around, that seatbelt's not going to be on them how we want it to be. So in the state of Ohio, the law is age 8 or 4 foot 9 inches is how long a child needs to be in some sort of child restraint.
Good to know. And you are available to help people with all of this.
Definitely.
You do checks. People can come in. People can make sure that their kids are safe, that they're doing the right things. And you find that a lot of times people are not.
No, yes. Last year, our misuse rate in Lucas County was 88%.
That's incredible. And in a bad way. We don't like that. But that's why you all are here. That's why you're available. How can people get connected and make an appointment?
Yes, so you can give us a call at the KISS Car Seat Program, 419-291-7945. And we're also able to help caregivers who may not have the funds to be able to purchase the next step. So we're able to assist, purchasing a new seat for you guys, or even sometimes giving it to you at a reduced or free cost.
They're expensive. And sometimes parents are like, this is what I can do, and this is all I can do. But we want to make sure these kids are safe.
Definitely.
Right?
Yes, it's important.
Hannah, thank you so much
Thank you so
for
much for having
joining
me.
us this afternoon. Back to you guys.
Amanda.